Hey guys, this is P.M.R.Bonez88, and it's been a while since my last top 7 Christmas movies that I was talking about during Christmas. But this time I will be talking about my top 10 favorite movie sequels. So, shall we begin? Number 10, Evil Dead 2. From the director Sam Raimi and also the star from the Evil Dead franchises is none other than Bruce Campbell. From the difference between the first, The Evil Dead, and Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 2 was really much more comedy and horrifying, but even darker. But not too dark, but it was really dark for the action that happened. And to see the difference between the Evil Dead, it was really just full-on horror film. For this second film, it was non-stop hilarious. Much more likely, even if it is a B movie, for Evil Dead 2, just like bring on all the hilarious, all the non-stop laughters, the surprise, scary sequences. It really brings out to second sequel to become a big non-stop non-culture for this favorite movie. The sequel itself, I just love it, and I just only enjoy, especially what the scene was where Ash was like getting his ass kicked or getting his punch whooped by his own hand that turned evil. And despite to see all the movie sets, you see like all the ceiling is gone, and where Ash is like just running around across the house or getting away from this evil spirit, that Evil Dead that's like coming after him. And also with all the evil sequences, they're not really scary. It's just flat out hilarious and funny. But it's my favorite movie, my favorite Evil Dead movie, especially with the reboot and Army of Darkness. But for Evil Dead 2, it's the big 80s pop culture, especially the big favorite movie line ever for Ash. Number 9, Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. This is also my favorite Friday the 13th movie sequel. And since I already reviewed Part 7, and plus there's going to be another Friday the 13th of this month, since I've reviewed it, but I could just talk about it again. Plus it's really my favorite, unlike the other. Plus it was also introduced to Kane Hodder to play the new and improved Jason. And he's been throughout all these Jason movies, he played Jason the most. And for The New Blood, it was really violent, really gory, and to see Jason now a whole new, horrifying, ferocious zombie looking. For this film, it should have been a director's cut. They should have made both like rated and unrated version for Part 7, The New Blood. And according to the MPA, that they didn't really like all the violence, all the blood that was like happening. They had to like cut that out, like cut out every other violence that happening, because back then they didn't want to show it too much. But now and today, they could just show much more. And since they done director's cut for the first film, why can't they just do it for the rest of the Friday 13th? Coincidence? My best part ever is where Jason's face has been revealed, all gore and gruesome and very disgusting looking. But for Part 7, just like brings out all the action, all the epic killing spree for Jason, and that makes him the most badass Jason character ever, thanks to Kane Hodder. Number 8, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze. The first film may be my favorite, but the second film is also my childhood's favorite because it related to the cartoon show, and also to see the Turtles like back in action, fighting against the Foot Clan, beating up the Shredder. For this second sequel, it has out with the Turtles like searching for their own secret of their life and their origin and how they became. It really all fits up. And for some reason that they didn't bring out was Rocksteady and Bebop. That was a disappointment, because those were the characters that we used to know back in our childhood memories and the cartoon show. But since they introduced to Toko and Razor, so that's where they were introduced, so they decided to change the storyline. But it was clearly, how should I say, a bad move for them. To tone things down to, like, the Turtles don't use the weapons. They do fight a lot. They do some fighting sequence or ninja fights, and there are some puns that they use most of the time, but only just to be like related to the cartoon show. And clearly the only best scene and everyone loves is the ninja rap, and especially that featured Vanilla Ice, like doing the ninja rap. So clearly, at the end, it's almost like a music video movie montage that's like combining into one, and that is like really great and so fantastic. Especially where the turtles, after they find out the Foot Clan, they just start dancing and doing the ninja rap. Number 7. Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Before the Star Wars trilogy prequels, and before this new upcoming movie, Star Wars Force Awakens, The Empire Strikes Back was unfortunately a sequel to the Star Wars trilogy. But now, since it's preferred to be the 5th installment, it's really my favorite. I love The Empire Strikes Back. Not just the lightsaber battle, but also with the battle of Hoth, the asteroid scenes of where the Millennium Falcon, where Han, Leia, and the others were like escaping from the TIE fighters. That was also my favorite. And including where the lightsaber battle, and again, yeah, it is definitely everyone's favorite. The biggest climactic clash between good and evil, and especially where Vader's most revealing, surprising scene.
I am your father.
Most obvious with all the visual effects that's happened with the, thanks to George Lucas, it just brings out the big Star Wars fanatics, bring it to life, and having it to like go in the battle with all the lasers and fighting and battling, escaping, the story and the revealing, and the love interest between of Han and Leia, and Luke and Leia is all a big loving triangle. But even so, you got to see it to believe it, but it's really a classic. Number 6. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I saw this film last year, and this movie was intense. The second film of Captain America was really intense. Had a good storyline, good adventure, good action battles, and especially where we see is the Winter Soldier. Before I keep on talking about it, if those of you didn't watch The Winter Soldier, skip to number 5. But if those of you did, already seen it, then continue on watching it. Or if you just don't care, if you're not interested in watching, not a big Captain America fan, just continue on watching it. So anyways, this was a big action sequel, and with all the stories that happening with the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents like being turned against each other, and somehow Hydra being all held up and ruling the world, and also to reveal that Winter Soldier was Bucky, Captain America's old friend. It had a good characters that got really strong, and also for the upcoming film of The Avengers Age of Ultron, it will definitely continue on for every hero's story plot that happened, and continue with the other film of Captain America Civil War. It'll be a battle against hero versus heroes. Number 5. Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Another sequel to the biggest Terminator movie ever. This is the best. Terminator 2: Judgment Day, however, just brings out the big epic performance. To see with Arnold Schwarzenegger returning as the Terminator, and we see Edward Furlong that was introduced into debut for his first film to play as known as John Connor. Linda Hamilton did return to play as Sarah Connor for the first film. For Terminator 2, had great visual effects, many big booms and explosive, and seeing all the Terminators in the bright future. That was like the big introduce to see the Judgment Day and the war that's like happening or will happen sometime in the future. But this time they will change it and stop the T-1000. And speaking of the T-1000, the T-1000 had like, it was a liquefying cyborg sort of, and it just like changes to many shapes, different size, even like according to what the Terminator just said, like knives and stabbing weapons no matter what, but it cannot change it to guns, so that doesn't count. But it also transform or turn into every human. It could turn to like no matter who you are or what you are. It could just change to anything. This big second sequel was the best. For unlike for other sequels such as Rise of the Machine, Salvation, and the upcoming film Genocide, hopefully it'll be good, but it won't be as good than the second sequel. I prefer that Terminator 1 and 2 are the best movies just to be deserved as a film on its own. 3 is okay, it has a good story plot, but not too much action and battle sequence than the second one. Salvation, however, was pretty too much. It was okay, but not really as best of itself, and especially what happened during Christian Bale and his big huge rant. And as for Genocide, I saw the trailer. It looks good and does have a big reset that never happened, so clearly it'll be a reset and a reboot, sort of. For Terminator Judgment Day, I think is a great movie, big epic performance, and to see Arnold Schwarzenegger's other big line besides "I'll be back."
Hasta la vista, baby.
That's what I'm talking about. Number 4, Aliens. The director James Cameron directed this film, and it was like the bomb. It was like action. It was all action. It's sort of sci-fi and action. The first film was horror and action, and the second film is all about the action and little horror scenes of ever. But to see Aliens that defines and redefines this film for itself, and to become to this big huge epic performance, and Sigourney Weaver that returned, that she played the big phenomenal role to play as Ripley once again, it was intense. It was phenomenal. Epic performance. Loved it even more. For Aliens like this, as my other childhood movie scene, to at least watch it over and over, I just love it, and it was really great. And just to see it all hanging up, and with all the Marines that just like finding all the aliens, and the aliens like getting all blown to pieces or getting scrapped to pieces, it was intense. Especially what we introduced with the Queen, that is so big and huge and really scary. But unlikely, it really does take the cake, where Ripley just fights off the Queen, saves the world, and saves the girl. Number 3, A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors. And for this Nightmare third installment, that Robert Englund returned to play none other than Freddy Krueger, and Heather Langenkamp that returned to play as Nancy, and even so, and reprising the role, which was John Saxon, to play as Nancy's father once again. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 Dream Warriors has all the Elm Street kids, and just like realizing that they have all these powers, they can use them and to fight against none other than the Springwood Nightmare slasher, Freddy. So they face off, and this was the big huge performance of Freddy Krueger, of Robert Englund to play as Freddy Krueger. It was my favorite. Unlike the other sequels such as Dream Master, Dream Child, Freddy's Revenge, and Freddy's Dead, for the rest of the sequels they were okay. But for Dream Warriors, just like bring out the biggest epic horror film ever. It was great. I must say that, especially where the big huge line that Freddy became high and became a huge horror icon. That rate, he became big. Everything that about Freddy did, he just became huge. Especially with the music performance by Duncan that played the music song of Dream Warriors and did a music video of Dream Warriors. That was really intense. I even saw this music video. It was great. Rock and roll, heavy metal, but it was really much more of rock and roll. For 80s pop culture, it was really rock and rollish, and with the Dream Warriors facing on with Freddy, you just like cannot stop watching this film. I think the best Nightmare franchises are the first one, Part 3, New Nightmare, and Dream Master. The rest of the sequels were okay, but they don't really follow up to these Freddy Nightmare franchises. Number 2, The Dark Knight. Director Christopher Nolan returned to direct the second Dark Knight installment. Along with the actors that returned were Christian Bale, Michael Caine, and Morgan Freeman. Maggie Gyllenhaal, she was the replacement of Katie Holmes to play as none other than Rachel. And who can we forget is Heath Ledger playing known as the Joker. For this Joker, he was much more scary, he's really serious and very dark. And the little difference is that he didn't really get fallen into a bag of chemicals and didn't bleach his face. He somehow used these war paints that just to cover his face, and along with his scarf and to make it look like a smiley face. For The Dark Knight, had a great storyline. It had great storyline, best action movies, and big explosive that happened, including with all these villains that just happened and returning for itself, and Batman face-off is none other than the Joker. The story is really about not really breaking the rules and not being the hero that he wants to be, but to die as a hero, or better yet, live long enough to see yourself become the villain. This brought in like so much money. It like built up the big money sequence. It cost like so much, and it built up for making another sequel, The Dark Knight Rises. But for The Dark Knight, it was high intense. For a film sequel like this, I would just really see this over again and again. But for my most favorites, such as all these Batman franchises, 1989 Batman, a classic. Batman Returns, also a classic. The Dark Knight, the best. Batman Forever, okay, not saying it. Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises were also good too. But for The Dark Knight for itself, to see the Joker and Batman facing off head to head, to see what shows them to become a hero or to become a villain, you really had to see this. It's so high intense. I saw this movie in theater like 3 times before. Never to say, but The Dark Knight was really high epic. And number 1, Spider-Man 2. Unlike the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but Spider-Man 2 that Sam Raimi directed and that brought back were Tobey Maguire, Kristen Dunst, and James Franco. Spider-Man 2 had a good storyline, and it did relate it to the Marvel Comics itself. And to see Spider-Man facing off Doc Ock, facing off his own self, to like having a conflict and confrontation for himself, it has this great moments to see where Peter Parker wants to live on his life, what he wants to do for his life, that he either wants to be a hero forever or he wants to give up his powers and just be plain old Peter Parker. For other sequels, Spider-Man 3, however, was a big, huge downfall, and that's where they decided to reboot Spider-Man again. The first Amazing one was really good and it had a good storyline, even though it was the same origin that we didn't want to hear it over again. The Amazing Part 2, there were some mixed reviews. I mean, I saw it before and it was good, but it wasn't that great. It wasn't really that intense. Well, some of the scenes were really intense, including the battle that faced off between Spidey and Electro. But there was due to all these villains and the same story plot wasn't really flowing. It was just like in a mix, like really crumbling for some reason. Even with the villains, that there was too many, they did the same. Well, they didn't do the same thing for Spider-Man 3. At least there was a reason why. They shouldn't just would concentrate much more is on Electro, and then the Green Goblin would have been the secondary villain. And as for the Rhino, they shouldn't just let the Rhino just out of it, just not shown until they make a sequel. But since the Amazing Spider-Man 3 is not going to happen, so clearly it just left it was cliffhanging. That's the one thing I really hate the most, is that movies that have like cliffhanging and don't really continue on the story or make another movie for it. But for Spider-Man 2, I think Spider-Man 2 should be like the finale of this Sam Raimi movies. The first one was really good, and I knew there was going to be a sequel someday. And for Spider-Man 2, it was supposed to be a finale. Even the battle sequence and the battle scene in the train, which fight off between Doc Ock and Spidey, it was epic. Really much more adventurous. So there you have it, folks. My top 10 favorite movie sequels. They're all my favorites, and I love them all. And this is P.M.R.Bonez88's signing off, and saying is, peace!